until we willing to put up with anything, do anything. Negro, go upside your head and it's all right. No. Because if we hold ourselves in high esteem, we don't have to take nothing. 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 We are women of God, children of God. We don't have to put up with nothing, and nor do you have to put up with nothing for somebody to be with you. None of it's worth it. It's about our self-worth and what we mean in a relationship and what we bring to a relationship. Pastor, you so quiet.
Yeah, you're saying
you know
it, girl.
I felt all that.
I didn't know all that was coming at you tonight. Let me just say this to you. Marriage is work. You've got to, literally, you work at it every day. And one of the things and you have to be intentional about things. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we did some years ago was, when you're working and you're involved in everybody else's life, many times, particularly as a pastor, your family gets neglected. We get this thing confused. Sometimes we say, okay, we put the church first, and then God comes somewhere in between that, then the family. But it's really God, it's the family, then the ministry. And sometimes for people in ministry, it's a juggling act, because you're trying to make God first and keep the ministry going, keep the family. It becomes a juggling act. But you have to be intentional, particularly about your marriage. And so what we did some years ago is we made sure that every Friday night, no matter where we were, no matter where I was, because generally when I travel on the Revival Trail, my wife goes with me. And no matter where we are, on Friday night is date night. Mm-hmm. Every church I've ever pastored, they know, don't look for me on Friday night. That's date night. If you go to Allen Church right now and ask any member, when's pastor's date night? They'll tell you Friday night. Because it becomes my time now not to talk shop. Because sometimes you can get so caught, in, not only just in ministry, but in your own careers, your own professions. You get what you made, and you're talking shop, talking what happened on the job, people who got on your nerves, and, people stressing you out, and them demons on your job, and you got to fight them off your back. And, you get so consumed in that you don't deal with one another. Right. So we were intentional about it. Every Friday night is date night, where we don't talk shop. We talk us. Talk about where we want to go, our dreams, our aspirations. Where do we want to see our marriage 5 years from now? How do we keep it fresh and alive and vibrant and energetic and making me want to come home and making her want to be home with me? I mean, those are the kind of things that you have to be intentional about, and you have to work at it. That's right. Successful, fulfilling marriage is not going to happen by osmosis. And it makes no sense to me to be hooked up with somebody out of convenience. It makes no sense to me that you with somebody because y'all have to just maintain a lifestyle. That makes no sense. Life is too short. If you're going to be with somebody, you need to enjoy them. Every aspect of them. You ought to and enjoy being with one another. It's one of the most unfortunate things. And and I see it I here, but at Allen, I look at married couples who don't want to be with one another. And their body language is so obvious. They don't touch. Even at church, they don't sit close to one another. They get as far away as they can to the next person on the other side of the pew. People who are married but don't want to be with one another. That's insane. That's crazy. If we're going to be married, we're going to make this thing enjoyable. We often talk about, because it was only God that brought us together. We didn't know each other from Adam. That's why I say don't limit yourself. I'm from Baltimore, but I met my wife in Texas. And I met her at a situation. I was invited to a dinner that her mother was giving for her boyfriend. That's crazy. Who's now her husband. Let me put that disclaimer. He's now
my mother's boyfriend, not mine. But mine was on his way.
Yeah, her man was on the way. He was. And I was invited, and her man was supposed to be there. He calls, I can't make it. It was over then, y'all. It was over then. I'm new to Texas. I'm new. I don't know anybody. You know, so, she's single. She ain't married to him. I didn't even know she was dating anybody.
I told you.
Yeah, she wasn't married to him. But the point I'm trying to get, how we met in a divine, we were not looking for one another. And how God can hook you up, make a connection that'll last for life. But although God hooks it up, you still have to work at it.
That's right.
And if you don't have the energy to work at it, then you don't need to get married. If you don't want to share your life with anybody, you don't want to share your room with anybody, you don't want to smell somebody break gas, and they go in the morning breath and go into have to put crime tape on the restroom after they leave it. Then you need to stay single. There's a story I often use about marriage, because marriage, if you're not careful, can be a Myra. Any of y'all remember the story that the children of Israel, they come out of the Red Sea, they come out of Egypt, come across the Red Sea, they dancing on the shores of the Red Sea, and the Bible says they were 3 days in the wilderness without water. They start fussing at Moses. Moses cries unto the Lord. The Lord shows them to where some water is, but when they get there, the water is bitter. One of the main themes of this particular story is that sometimes you want something so bad that when you finally get it, it's not all you thought it was going to be. And that's what can happen to some marriages. Marriages can fake you out. We want this big wedding, and, you come down, you got 24-member bridal party. You come in with a train 10 feet long. Your wedding reception is at the Fontainebleau. You go on a cruise. Your honeymoon is a cruise to St. Lucia. But 6 months later, you find yourself at a place called Myra. When you find yourself and you wake up and your mate stopped using Listerine and Scope, you at a place called Myra. When you walk around picking up drawers that have skid marks in it, you at a place called Myra. And you got to work through that. You got to move through that. Sometimes we have these expectations, and then when it's not what we think it is, then we get frustrated. After 6 months, we done threw up our hands, I quit. If this is the best it's going to be, no, you got to work at it to be the best and the most satisfied that you can be. Honey, before we open up with questions, is there any final thoughts you want to give?
I'd just like to say that none of us are exempt from struggling. Ain't none of us perfect. I guess y'all hear how Southern I am, huh? Ain't none of us perfect. None of us are perfect. We all have issues. And when you're working on a marriage or relationship that you plan to end in marriage, there shouldn't be anything that you're ashamed to ask, you have to do what you have to do if you want it to work. I could care less what people think about me, especially if I'm struggling. The way I feel, people don't have a heaven or a hell to put me in. So, I know from which my help comes. I know the times I was on my face and on my knees praying, and it was about my marriage, to have a strong, healthy marriage. It's one thing to be in a marriage, another one to have a healthy marriage, where we sit up and our entertainment, we can go out to eat and laugh at everybody else. We don't have to pay to go to no comedy show. We sit up and be laughing hard, and people looking at us like, what's wrong? And we know that ain't right, but we do it. We do it. So my prayer is that when we open up a question and answers, anything, any questions and anything, any Q&A, anything you want to add, please feel free. I'm not going to judge you. Because you name it, we've probably been through it. I ain't going to tell y'all all my business, but we've probably been through it. So please, don't be ashamed. Because your marriage or your relationship is on the line. Amen? Amen.
Amen. We're going to open up the floor now for a few moments of Q&A if you have any questions.
How you doing, sir?
Yes.
My name is Brother Adrian Farrell. Do you think that we jump in marriage too quickly, far as that, for instance, that we don't take time out to get out, know our mate before we get into it, and you know what I mean, like we don't give God a chance to go through the process with a person? Because when I first got married, I had a lot of baggage, you know what I mean, when I came into my marriage. And the same day that I married my wife, you know what I mean, I went and had sex with, I dropped her off at her daughter's house, and I went to a young lady house out Harford County after I married her on the same day I married her, because I had a whole bunch of issues and baggage.
Right.
And I married this woman, I dropped her off at her daughter's house, and I went out Harford County and had sex before I even had sex with my wife on my wedding day. You know what I mean? But because, see, a lot of time I believe we jump into marriage with a lot of baggage that we never address. Right. You know what I mean? And I had a lot of issues. You know what I mean? When I, you know what I mean, before, that's why I'm not quick to just jump into a marriage right now. You know what I mean? I have to let God go here and do a process with me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't want to bring all this baggage. I had baggage where as though I had a whole lot of issues. I was a homosexual, I was a rapist, I was a fornicator, I was adulterous, I was a masturbator, I was a whoremonger, I was a sodomite, I was a cusser, I was a smoker, I was a pickpocket, I was a gambler, I was a murderer. You know what I mean? I had a whole lot of issues.
Oh no,
they say I can ask
you in the right place.
Right,
man.
that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? This is the problem. You know what I mean? See, sometimes you need to hear this because sometimes we need to dress and get naked before we go into marriage.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we'll carry all the baggage into the marriage without letting God do a process, and because we want what we want it. Of a fascination. Mm-hmm. You understand? So I'm fascinated of lust and not going through the process of letting God do what he need to do on me so I won't bring all this baggage into a marriage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Well, so do you think sometimes that we go here and not let God work on us first before we go into a marriage?
Absolutely. But let me just thank this brother for his honesty. See, let me share this with you. God can never take you to where he needs you to be until you admit where you are. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 3. After the fall, God asked a question, and it took me a long time to understand because I thought it was crazy. God says to Adam, Adam, where are you? Well, I mean, okay, God, I mean, you God, you know everything. Right. You see, you're omniscient, you're omnipotent, you know, you already know where he is. Why would you ask him such a stupid question to me? Mm-hmm. And God later shared with me is that I needed him to admit where he was before I could restore him. And see, this brother will never be healthy for any woman until he admits where he is. That's right. Not on, and see, and some of us will sit and we'll judge them. See, we already, I feel a spirit, yeah, hey, they're judging them already. Good God, how many folks can do all of that and still be alive? I mean, I see it. Yeah, and I talked about it, preached about it Sunday in one of my sermons, talking about this change is for you. And I dealt with the fact, it's easy. We get enjoyment out of assessing other people's lives. I mean, it makes us laugh. Mm-hmm. But we don't spend a whole lot of time assessing ourselves. And I think to go with this brother is before you make a commitment.